everyone. So in today's video we are going to discuss how to insert the customer details, then the bill information details, and the suppliers information details, and the store details using insert queries. And here we are going to basically add these data into the tables. So this is of a 35th question, which is based on the question number 31, which has details about the inventory storage software. So here we have for our brand table, then our product table we have these values here, then our GRN table, then a GRN item table. So there are some which needs to be filled in the proper order, so we need to see that carefully and get it done. So yes, so now let's head on to our SQL to insert this data into our database. Alright, so we can start off by writing a few insert queries. So let's start off on the first question, where we have to insert our brand details. And so we have our database name here, early_shoe center. Alright, so here we have the details of so here we're taking the brand table. Alright, so then the columns, brand ID, brand name, because the brand ID is auto incremented. So here we're taking only one value, so I'm going to name it as value. So yeah, copying this, controls AC. Alright, so we have 4 brands. So yes, we have to fill in for those 4 brands. They are all in capitals. So yeah, DSI, Bata, Nike, and Puma. So let's first go to our brand table, check the data. We have nothing in here. Execute our query and go back to our data, refresh it, and so we have our values in here. So I had done this before, that's why it's coming as 5, 6, 7, 8. I have executed these queries before. And because they are auto incremented, they will fill that order list. So next we have our question number 2. Basically it's in the product table. Let's see our columns. So we have the product name, description, and the brand ID. So product table, so product name, then the description. So I'm putting the description within the grave accent marks because it's a keyword, and then we have the product ID, brand_brand ID. Alright, so that's done. Then we have values to fill in. So I'll copy this query 4 more times. Alright, so I can directly take in the data from our question and just paste it here one by one. Alright, so we have the first item, then our second one, then the description, and then the ID. Alright, so next item, the description, and then the ID. Next item, description and ID. Description, ID, and our final product. We have the description and then the ID. Alright, so all we need to do is execute this query, and now when I refresh this data has been added here. So a small, like I said in my previous one, I have inserted these queries before, that's why it's auto incremented as 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but I can rename it here like this. Then our next question is the for the GRN table. Let's look at the table. So we have the GRN, we need to have the GRN item ID here as well. So for that we have to do the GRN table, but for that again we need to have the stock ID. For the stock ID, let's look at our stock table. So we can fill in our stock table first. We have the quantity to fill in and then the selling price. So now we are at question number 6. I didn't skip those questions, I am just not answering them for now because we need to first sort out our parent keys. So here we have the values. So we have 5 items of stock. So the first one will be 20, the second one will be 400. Alright, so if we check our columns again, there are only 2 other columns and we have 5 rows of data. I'm going to change these values according to our question. So this one is 30, then 40, then 31, and then we have 35. Alright, so next we have 350, 300, then 300 again, and 1650. Okay, so let's execute this. So now these have all been added. Next let's check we have our invoice item, but we have to finish before that we have to finish the invoice question first. So but to do the invoice question we have to do the GRN item. So yeah, we can start off by filling that table GRN item. Alright, so we have the columns to fill in the GRN item table. We have the product ID, product ID, then the quantity, then the unit price, then the selling price, and the stock ID. Alright, so next we are going to enter the values. So this is going to be a common query. Go to copy it, and now I'm just going to check if our columns are in order. Alright, so the columns are all in order, and yeah, there's nothing wrong there. So let me just copy this query 5 times. Alright, done. So now all we need to do is just to insert this data into our GRN table. So let me check our GRN table as well. So yeah, we have to finish our GRN table and then we have to finish our GRN item ID. So I think they'll both be the same, the item ID and the GRN. So let's keep it like that to avoid any confusion. So our first set of values, I'll be adding the quotation marks after I copy all the values so that it's easier. Then next set of values, third set of values, and our final set of values. Copy it and then paste it here. And now we just need to add the quotation marks. Okay. So there should be no problems here in this table, as I couldn't fill these details to the GRN item table before. So I think it should be showing auto incremented from 1 to 5. We can see that as soon as we run the query from this end. So now we are almost done with that. Alright, so execute this. Okay, so it should be stock underscore stock ID. That's the foreign key. So stock underscore stock ID. Alright, so we have this saved and execute. Read, watch, check our data. I'm checking the wrong table. So you can see all the data have been now stored here. So leave this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one as 5. Alright, so next we have to fill in our GRN table. So GRN table will be having the item and a user ID as well. So what we need to know is that for our GRN table we need to fill in this data. So I'm going to copy all of this. First we are going to have the GRN underscore item ID. Next, check our database table, GRN item underscore GRN item ID, because it's our foreign key. Item ID. Next we are going to have GRN date, I think is the name of the column. Yeah, GRN underscore date. And finally the user ID. So I think that is user underscore user ID underscore user ID. And I'm going to take this to the next line to put in our values. We have 4 sets of values, so I'm going to copy this query. Alright, and then I'm going to insert it. Control A-C. So we have 4 sets of data to add. So I'm going to add those 4 sets of data now. Okay, so now I need to add the quotation marks for all this. So we have 3 columns, so need to fill it respectively. So next, I think we have one more table to fill, which is the invoice item ID table. After that, I'll be showing once all our data, all our tables have been filled. So here, our final. Alright, so I need to run this. So we can't add this. Let's see what's wrong here. Let's refresh it here. So nothing is wrong here. If we check the data, there is nothing wrong here as well. If we check our user table, we have the user IDs here. We have all our user IDs. I think one is missing. Yeah, so let me first insert the data. There would have been some error, and okay, so it's not an error. I missed one data by accident. Okay, so they're not allowing us to update this. So let's go back to the table. It's the user table. We're not allowed to change that. So okay, so our queries won't allow. Okay, so this is the problem here. Let me put this as 5 for now. They won't let us update because of this, so let me just put it as 2 for the time being. Then we'll update our user table. So here we can change this to 5. Yeah, so that was the problem. There was already a data carrying the value 6. So now we can check the user type, system login, and change this back to 6, what we had before. Alright, so now we can execute our query again, and this is the GRN table. We can refresh the data here in this table, and you can see all this data have been added. I'll just name this as 1, 2, 3 and 4. Alright, so next we have to update the data in our invoice item table. So that's our last table, invoice item. Alright, so within the brackets we have to have the login ID, I believe. This not the yeah. So yeah, invoice item table should have the invoice item, invoice ID. Okay, so we have to have all those 3 values. So the invoice ID, the stock ID, stock underscore stock ID, invoice underscore invoice ID, because we are getting them as foreign keys. Then the quantity table, so we are going to have the values. I'm going to keep it in one line because it's all single digit values, single or double digit values. We have five of these to keep. So first we'll copy this and create the 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, then I'm going to insert in our data. So our first set of data, our second set of data, our third set of data, and fourth one. Alright, and our final set of data. So we copy this, and then now we have to add our single quotation marks here to make sure these are shown as values, and so that they get added to the table. Alright, so 1, okay, so let's run this. So there is some wrong value here. So invoice item ID, so it has our invoice table been filled with data first. Yeah, so we can't fill that without having our invoice table being filled. So I'm just going to save this, just leave this here, right here. We can come back and execute the query again. So there's nothing much to be done there. So we just need to have this as date and the user ID, and the date is a keyword, so we need to keep it under grave accent marks. So next we have the user underscore user ID. Alright, so the values, and we'll be having 3 values. Yeah, 3 values. So I'm going to select all this, then copy it and paste it another 2 more times. Alright, next we have to add in the data from our invoice table. The date value, then our time value, and then our date value. So save this and execute it. So when we refresh our data, we have these values now. So I'm just going to undo all that we've added slowly, one by one. Alright, now I can execute this for the 7th table. There's still a small error. Let's see what's wrong. So we are supposed to have the invoice ID, the stock ID. So invoice item constraint, the foreign key, invoice item 1. So let's check what's wrong here. So we have our invoice item table here. So yeah, all of that has been added. The only error was showing one value, I think. So the invoice item ID's values 2, 3, 4, 5 were shown without a problem. So what went wrong was this. Yeah, so the invoice item should have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the problem. Let's delete the data from these rows. Alright, and then execute it. Now only 3 of them are showing, because we have in our invoice table we have only 3 items, so the invoice item ID, so yeah, 1 1 2 and 3, so we are short of some data in that. According to our question, we are short of data, and we can't repeat, so it's supposed to be 1 1 sorry 1 2 1 1 2 3 4. So I'll just leave it as 1 1 2 2 3 because there is no fourth invoice item ID here. So if I run this again, yeah, now there is no problem. So I just need to delete these queries, delete it, and then refresh it, and now we have all of them appearing. So yeah, let's just rename this, and basically that is it for this video on how to insert the customer details, the billing details, and the stock details using our insert queries. So you can see we have our tables. We have the GRN table, GRN item, the invoice table, the invoice item table, the product table, the stock table. So yeah, that is basically it for this video. Thank you for watching.